to me, I was like, yeah, the baby is fine. Mommy needs to work on her touch today, So I truly enjoyed that version of myself, pregnant and training.
Can I imagine like Megan Klingenberg taking you aside at some point saying, "You're making us look bad that you're still the fastest member of the team." My guest today is among my favourite footballers in the entire American game. An effervescent force of personality, creativity, tenacity and intelligence on the field. She's also a remarkable human being and proud mother to young Marcel off it. And with the World Cup looming just 29 days away as we tape, it's a joy to welcome the key cog in American hopes for glory down under. It's the NWSL multi-championship winner, World Cup victor. Whatever position you can play, she can play it better than you, and maybe that includes goalkeeper. But my lord, it's never been better to watch her than when marauding as a midfield tour de force for your defending champion Portland Thorns and the US Women's National Team 2023 World Cup squad. Welcome back, Crystal Dunn.
Oh, Raj, it's so good to be back. I feel like it's been a really long time.
I would say a lot has happened, which we will discuss, but it's a joy to see you any day, but particularly on today, a day in which you have been selected as one of the 23 chosen to represent our nation, defend the World Cup title, please God, in Australia and New Zealand. Where were you when you found out? Take us there. Does Vlatko, does he make the calls? Does he just text?
Yeah, so how the process goes is, you kind of know what date the coach is going to make these calls. And I was on a 10-day trip with my Thorns team. So it wasn't the comfiest place that I could possibly be in. It was in a hotel room. And you know what? That's what makes the story that great, though. It's like you get these calls, you have no idea where you're going to be.
So you see Vlatko's name pop up. And we're going to remember, after the heartbreak of missing out on the World Cup in 2015, despite your sizzling form back then, we've talked about this before. This moment is something that you never, ever take for granted. As that call comes through, can you describe your emotions?
Yeah, I mean, the anticipation alone is the worst part. I feel like knowing that the date that the coach is going to make that call, you're sitting by your phone almost waiting, like, okay, is it now? Is it now? When is it going to be? And once I saw, Vlatko's name pop up on the call, yeah, my shoulders kind of were able to relax a little bit, because at the end of the day, it's like, you just have to trust that you did all the work that puts you in the best position to be selected, and that's kind of where I was at, was, receiving that call. And once he did say that I was named to the roster, I just felt a huge sigh of relief, just feeling like, okay, like the work that I did, it mattered, every sacrifice that I made, it mattered. And it was, incredible to hear my name and see my name being announced today.
I want to talk about all that work with you, but I do need to ask, is Vlatko big on small talk?
He has a bit of small talk, yes. I mean, I would say that he, his call wasn't like, you're going, and then like click. I did have my son actually in the room bopping around and making a whole lot of noise. So I was kind of like, Marcel, like, shh, this is the call that I'm waiting for. I need you to, go play with your toys over there. So, he understood that, the setting that I was in wasn't obviously my ideal setting. It was a hotel room, like I said, but what can we do?
Well, it's a great segue into the second congratulations of this show, due to you and your husband, Pierre, on becoming first-time parents almost exactly 1 year ago now, May 20th, 2022, the birth of your son, Marcel. What a miraculous era of sleepless nights in impenetrable form he appears to have ushered in.
I mean, yes, I love being a mom. Honestly, I never thought I'd love it as much as I did. It is hard work, though. I feel like people are always like, do you absolutely love it? I'm like, yes, I love it. But listen, it's not for everybody. There's a reason some people are not parents, or that they kind of are like waiting to the proper time where they want to, explore motherhood and parenthood. But he's an absolute joy. I already got him kicking a soccer ball, as you can only imagine. I'm one of those parents that are like, when you're older, you can make the choice. But right now, here's the ball. You're going to kick this ball.
Bring on 2038 World Cup. But in all seriousness, Crystal, we had Julie Ertz on last month, and she talked incredibly articulately about the experience of giving birth as an elite athlete? A moment that comes with elation and delight, but also uncertainty and seismic change that mere mortals like us could never understand. Can you describe the emotional complexities you wrestle with as you become a new mother? Alex Morgan told us, it was the first time she had to think about anything other than herself as an elite athlete while maintaining your career.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that I had a clear idea of how I wanted to be a parent and also what even my pregnancy journey was going to look like. Everybody who kind of followed my journey knew that I was on the field pretty much up until I, gave birth. And my teammates were like, are you going to literally have this baby on the field? And I was like, no, that's not my plan. But, and so I trained for, 9 months, literally as I was ready to give birth. And I thought it was the greatest thing for me and my journey. And it's, something that I think really set me up for coming back and being able to play in 7 to 8 games at the end of last year.
Yeah. By the way, when you say you practice well into your trimester, my memory goes to one point in February, you posted on your Instagram, 6 months pregnant, but got to keep making sure my touch stays popping.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I remember watching that like, oh my Lord, that is a superhuman mix of determination and love and joy for the game of football colliding together. Can you talk about that mindset?
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine balance. I mean, obviously what Alex touched on of thinking about something other than yourself is 100% spot on. I think for me, I wanted to get the balance right where, yes, I was becoming a mom and I knew I was 6 months pregnant at that time, but I was like, I still want to play. I want to touch the ball. I want to join in a passing pattern. Obviously, all considering if I'm healthy enough and if I feel good enough to do so. But to me, I was like, yeah, the baby is fine. Mama needs to work on her touch today, So I truly enjoyed that version of myself, pregnant and training.
Can I imagine Megan Klingenberg taking you aside at some point saying, you're making us look bad that you're still the fastest member of the team?
My teammates were very supportive, but like I said, at the very end, they did get nervous about are you literally going to have this child here? And are we going to have to help deliver this baby? And I was like, well, please, I hope not. But, I made it possible, safe and sound. And, it was a joy to just be able to be out there up until, the baby came.
Marcel was born May 20th, 2022. And when you were out for just 3 months and 20 days, how was it for you to have to watch the teams that you've been leading and dominating fight in their matches without you? And not just your mighty Portland Thorns, but the national team as well, who won trophies at She Believes Cup and began to evolve, adding younger generations. You and I have talked before about how hard you found it in the past when you weren't selected for the US women to watch. You couldn't bear it. But in this different reality, when you couldn't play, did you watch? Was it hard, or were you glued to the television like a fan?
I will say I learned to be such a student of the game and really appreciate the game when I was, on the sidelines. And I think for me, I mean, I don't know if many people know this, but I was really burnt out before I became a mom. I, was starting to not enjoy playing and training and doing all the things that I know bring so much joy and passion out of me. And I think I hit a moment in my career where I said, I've always wanted to be a mom. And, if I want to be a mom while I'm playing soccer, this is the time. And maybe it also gives me the perspective and the joy that I kind of need to, continue on in my playing career. And I think when I was watching as I was pregnant and giving birth and kind of coming back, I realized that I can still be impactful in this sport and not be playing. For me, it was showing up every day and cheering my teammates on, obviously in Portland. And I was the biggest cheerleader. I was at all the games. I was, right there when anyone needed me. I remember having a lot of conversations with young players and just telling them about, the game and anything that, they can do to help themselves in the game and trainings. And I was just like, this is my calling. This is where I'm at right now, where helping someone doesn't always mean playing alongside them. It could mean literally being on the sideline and giving them that perspective.
God, it's fascinating because you returned so incredibly quickly that someone on the Thorns told the press that she had food in her refrigerator that was older than Marcel. But knowing that football had become, in your words, a bit of a grind, what was it like? Because your speed of return and your impact was remarkable to witness, but you were returning to that grind, the hard afternoon training, the grind to return that supporters don't get to see. What was it like picking that grind up again?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was burnt out, but I think I was able to appreciate the game and train in a different way. I was training, but obviously I was like, I'm pregnant. I'm not doing the high speed running that everyone else is doing, but I'm training and getting strong in ways that I probably wasn't focusing on before. And I kind of, between giving birth and coming back to like my first training, like I only kind of didn't play soccer for about a month and a half, 2 months in the whole scheme of things. Like that is really not a whole lot of time that I actually wasn't playing soccer. So I really feel like when I came back, it almost felt like I was like, I don't think I really stopped playing soccer. Like my touch felt good. I felt clean. I felt focused. I felt really mentally ready and prepared to like kind of get back in the swing of things.
You returned with a bang, quite literally. Yeah. An edge of the box, semi-final banger, stoppage time rocket, emphatic Crystal Dunn. I'm back. Take us there. It's a semi-final, game tied 1-1. You'd subbed in late, 1 minute left in added time. From a corner, last gasp. You descended upon the ball and unleashed what looked like every single stored up emotion.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, subbing into that game, I obviously had a bit of nerves. I was like, it's a semifinal. Like, first of all, I'm really appreciative that the coach trusts me to kind of help close the game out or help, do something, be a spark for the team. So I was like, well, thanks, coach. Appreciate that. And then secondly, like I felt really good in the game. Like I remember like getting stuck into some tackles and really being impactful in ways that go beyond assisting and scoring, So to me, I was kind of on the field for like 15 minutes and I was like, oh, mama feels good. Like I'm getting stuck in, I'm getting into some tackles. And then that corner kick happens and Kling sends a ball in. I'm kind of on the edge of the box. And then I realize the ball is, now falling to the top of the box. So I kind of just like, I'm like, yeah, let me try to get there. And then as soon as my foot makes contact with the ball, I was like, that feels really good. Let's see where it goes, kind of thing, And then once I see it kind of soar into the net, I was just like, what a moment this is, Like I was so shocked that moment happened because it was beyond scoring a goal. It was beyond helping my team go into a final. It was like everything that I worked for and worked towards really was so worth it for that moment, that sweet moment.
I mean, it was like life-shaping emotions pouring into and expressed through the football. Mama feels good. May we all experience emotions that even come close to that at least once in our lifetime. But your Portland Thorns didn't stop there. They went on to win the championship with a 2-0 victory over mighty Kansas City, jubilantly lifting the club's third NWSL championship trophy, really solidifying their standard as the most decorated side in the league. But how do you stay grounded? You're like a human car map. Is there a trick to staying level in these moments?
For me, like I stay so present in everything that I do. Like I give 120% in everything I do because I know the reality is it's like I can't get so focused on what's far down the road, because if I don't do the work that I need to do today, then I'm not setting myself up for what is soon to come, So everyone asks, how do you prepare for a World Cup? And I'm like, well, I prepare for a World Cup by dominating the trainings that I'm in, trying to be impactful in the training, in the games that I step into. And obviously, the reality is my preparation for the World Cup looks very different to many. I'm playing midfield for the Thorns. So it's very different in preparing for the World Cup, where I will not be a midfielder. But I give so much to every play and every drill. And I think that is how I really stay balanced and I stay present and I prepare myself for what is down the road. And I don't get too far ahead of myself.
God, I love your approach to life. I mean, I've just realized I too have a World Cup dream. You're like, I get there by doing the work in the now. I just realized the connection between my inability to create my own dream and sitting on the couch, eating a big bag of potato chips and watching a lot of football. But in all seriousness, it has been a year of challenge as well as a year of wonder. You won it all. And championship glory really came at the tail end of a tumultuous year for the women's game and all who care about it. The revelations of systemic abuse in NWSL crowded the field of play for the national team. Last October, as you and your teammates were arriving in London for that clash in a pair of highly touted European friendlies, former US Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates released just a harrowing 173-page report that had been commissioned by US Soccer, which articulated a systemic pattern of abuse and neglect fostered by the league and the federation that have failed to protect its players. It was incredible. There were so many scenes that were indelible, but watching you Crystal, step up and be a leader of that team in that moment of challenge, playing a key role, speaking to the press that week in London. Your quote, you said, the jerseys that we're wearing, it's hard to be happy in them. It's hard to find joy in wearing it. I mean, that was coming from, to me, I look at you as the spreader in joy, a spreader of joy in chief. It was a momentous role that you played, and you played it incredibly, emotionally pitch perfect. How did you experience it?
Yeah, I mean, for starters, I think it's important that people realize, like, there are so many things more important and bigger than the sport of soccer. You know, to me, soccer has provided me a platform to really express who I am as a human being and to brand myself in a way where people know what I'm all about outside of just me as a soccer player. And I think when I said that quote, it was me just, you know, allowing people to realize, like, yeah, we have this big game in England, and, you know, obviously we want to win. It's at Wembley. We want to play in front of in front of all these fans, but there's something bigger going on here. And as much as we are going to still take the field, I think it was important for people to hit pause and realize that at this moment, we are fighting for the growth of the women's game. This is bigger than a clash between two women's soccer teams going against each other. This is a fight, a collective fight for the growth and protection of the women's game. And I think that's my biggest message is, you know, if I'm ever trying to lead in hard and tough situations, you know, it always comes down to us realizing that there are so many things bigger than the sport that we play. And it's important that we stand up for those things as well as stand up for who we are as soccer players.
Amen. Amen. And, you know, the challenges off the field, there were lesser challenges in your contextualization on it too. The US women's national team, perhaps understandably, with all just the chaos that surrounded it, lost to England that week at Wembley, then fell to Spain in Pamplona, then lost to Germany a month later in the United States, the longest loss streak for this formidable juggernaut of a national team since 1993. And it's often said that more can be learned from loss in terms of self-knowledge than gained from victory. What did this team learn in those defeats that will be necessary this year as you fight for a third straight World Cup trophy?
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that, you know, everyone thinks putting on the jersey means that you're invincible, you're unstoppable. And I think that's always the narrative that people try to feed us. Oh, you're a member of the U.S. Women's National Team. You guys are automatically going to win. You're going to win this. You're going to win this tournament. And I think losing makes people realize, like, it's not easy. Winning on the U.S. Women's National Team is not easy. I know it may seem that way from an outside looking in, but the reality is we take our jobs very seriously. And when we have targets on our back, like, we know the pressure that poses, but we don't shy away from that. We embrace it, and we understand that it's not easy, win or lose. We're still going to, like, bounce back and be the team that we know we can be.
One thing that Vlatko emphasised in a run-up to the squad announcement was the primacy of club form as the central preparation, really the qualifying bar for the national team. And watching you this season, Crystal, more than anybody, you live that out. Arguably, you're in the form of your life, tearing up NWSL in the midfield, it should be said, leading or near leading the charts for goals, shot creation, just the most impact players. The most impact player of impact players. Can you describe internally what you're experiencing? What fire has been lit beneath you? Is it a feeling of freedom, of being back on the field again after the time out, the looming World Cup, or is it the image of Marcel watching you at practice?
I mean, I think it's a combination of both. I think having time off to reset, I think you come back, guns blazing. I think you come back with this newfound joy and passion for the game because you've taken so much time off. You're like, oh my gosh, get me out there. Like, I want to just play. But I think for me, like, I'm at my best when I keep things simple. I'm at my best when I don't overthink or when I have powerful self-belief in my abilities. I think I've often struggled with that identity of being a midfielder, then being an outside back. And what does that mean? And can I even, can I reach the standards that I set for myself? And I think that was my concern going into 2019. It was always, this is the first major tournament, first World Cup for me. And I need to prove myself. I need to prove that I can be an outside back because there's so many doubters out there that are like, Crystal Dunn, who? She doesn't play outside back. Like, this is going to be the biggest challenge for her, And I think I really leaned into others being like, oh, can she do it? And that was 2019. And I think this year, I'm not out to prove anything. I'm out to just showcase who I am as a person, as a player, as a mom. And I think I'm playing with so much joy. And, I think that translates on the field, when I don't take any play or any moment lightly. If my job is to make it difficult for others, I'm like, cool, got it, coach. That's my challenge. That's my job. I got you.
How do you prepare for that coming role as a left back? Does it require extra hours, more training, additional take? Because the two positions, we're seeing it in reverse with Trent Alexander-Arnold in the Premier League. They are completely different games. Seeing the whole field ahead of you when you're at the back, and the midfield skills, just a completely different set of arts.
Definitely. I watch a ton of film. I'm such a film person, because I think being able to dissect your own self is really powerful. Being able to invest in yourself and invest in the game is actually what helps you not only, remain at the level that you're at, but also progress into a higher standard. And to me, I'm my harshest critic. I watch every game footage back on myself, what things I did well, what things I could do better. And I think that's really my best type of preparation for, when I do have to switch positions, because all I can do is kind of learn on the fly. And, I'm not getting the reps that I normally get as an outside back. The reality is, it's like when I'm training to break lines as a midfielder. I'm training to be in this midfield kind of system. And I think, once I close out this last game over the weekend, I definitely will change my focus into what do I need to do to get myself to the highest level that I can possibly reach as an outside back and be the best I can be for the national team. What
left backs do you watch to prepare?
I definitely am a fan of Trent. I think obviously he is somebody that probably relates to me, where, you play outside back, you make it work, you throw your own flair and flavor onto it. But the reality is, it's like, no, I'm not like a traditional and original version of an outside back. And I think that that's cool. I think bringing your own level of play and your own vision of the game from that position is really, powerful and creative. And I think that that's kind of how he plays it. And I see it in his play on the field. And I think that's really what I relate to as well.
We've got to touch upon, with a note of true sadness, you're off to the World Cup, but your Thorns teammate and back-to-back World Cup champion, Becky Sauerbrunn, will not be, announcing last week that she'll be out with that foot injury. I did offer to give her my own foot. I'd give her whatever it took to have her play for this nation. The outpouring of sadness has been so immense for the people's captain. Can you describe from inside the squad what Becky Sauerbrunn brings that will be borderline irreplaceable?
Yeah, I mean, Becky brings such a calming factor to the team. That's both on and off the field. She is an absolute true leader. She leads by example. She leads by just overall trust in her teammates. And that is reciprocated for her, because she's such a powerful and impactful leader for us. So her presence is going to be greatly missed. I've reached out to her. I've talked to her. And, she is someone who is so impactful in ways that you can't replicate. Her not being there is going to be felt. And I think I'm still in shock. I think seeing her in training this week, I'm kind of like, it almost feels unreal still. It's like, this is not real. This is something that I'm going to have to wrap my head around and kind of start healing from, because she's somebody that's been so key in my career. She's my, center back buddy that I've always played next to. And I think in games where I am, stressed, or I feel like there's doubt creeping in, like whenever I look back and I see her right there, I'm like, oh, I'm good. I have Becky next to me. Like, what can go wrong possibly, And I think she does that for everybody. That's not just me, but she does that probably for the midfielders that play behind her and the forward line that thinks, oh, Becky has my back. So I think I'm still processing it. I think she is such a leader in the way that she cares so much about the team that in her posts, she's even thinking about, I will be the biggest supporter. I'm, there every step of the way. Like, I believe in you guys. And I'm like, that is her to a core. That is her to her absolute true version of herself, thinking about others, even in a moment that's so hard for her to process herself.
To see that squad and see the number of players of colour, the diversity of the squad, or the progress in diversity. Defenders, Naomi Gurma, Alana Cook, Trinity Rodman, Alyssa Thompson, Lynn Williams, Sophia Smith. And we've talked about this before, the absence
Yeah.
I'd say this is progress. And you talked about this today. You said something beautiful. You said, as a woman of colour, I've always wanted to play for something more than myself. Every time I take the field, I know I'm representing minorities of whom not everyone has had the opportunity to step foot into the game.
Yeah, I mean, those words are so true. I think I've had to carry kind of a burden of feeling like, I'm one of the very few, and I think, it was always something that I think motivated me. I was always motivated to be seen. I think it tags into me wanting to be at my absolute best so that I can be on the field. I think I'm a big believer in, women of color are always, used to kind of feeling like, okay, well, I'm kind of here. I'm surviving this environment, but it's like, we deserve to be thriving. I'm not here to just feel like I'm staying afloat. Like, I'm here to push to be a face of this game. I'm pushing for people to really see women of color as a face of this game, because I think visibility is so important and representation is so important, and I'm very passionate about it. So I think it tags into kind of how I carry myself every single day I step onto the field.
The World Cup is just 29 days away, and the US, no doubt, has an immense task ahead of them. The field's going to be more competitive than ever before. Everybody, as you say, wants to dethrone the dynasty. What advice do you impart to your team on what you know is going to be necessary to get there?
Yeah, I mean, it's one game at a time. I think it's so easy for people to already start thinking about, who's going to be in the final, who's going to win this. And I'm like, we have Vietnam. That is our first game that we should be focusing on. It is not about the final. It's not even about the first knockout stage rounds. It's about getting the job done, game one, then moving on to game two, then moving on to game three. And I think that is the message that I hope my teammates already know, that I don't, have to share that with them, is just understanding that it is a marathon and not a sprint when you're in a major tournament. It is about getting the job done at day one so that you can set yourself up for the future of the tournament.
You've won a World Cup before, Crystal Dunn. You enter this tournament in a very different phase in your personal and your professional life. You're attempting to go back to back. You're most certainly living in the now. But to be able to share this journey with your son, with Marcel, and know that your growing family is in the stands, how much more does this one mean to you because of that?
Yeah, I mean, this one feels different. But I tell everybody, multiple World Cups does not guarantee anything, So I think every major tournament is going to give a different feel. It's going to, you're in a different phase of your career, like you touched on. I'm 4 years older. I'm 4 years wiser, I'd like to believe. And on top of that, I'm a mom. So I am in a completely different mindset and space in my career this go around than I was in 19. I touched on how 19 felt very much like I had to prove myself. I had to show people that, like, oh, I don't know why there's all this chatter about me not being a good outside back, because, like, I think I'm pretty bomb. I don't know what you guys are watching. But that was where my focus was in 2019. And I think this one is about, like, I just have to be seen in the eyes of my son and seen in a way where I'm proud of myself for all the work that I put in. And I think that keeps me grounded. That gives me the grace that I need to kind of pursue and chase the dreams of, winning another World Cup. And I think I'm just here. I'm living life. I'm showing up and showing out.
Last one, the big one. As a matter of grand national strategic importance, Crystal, your husband Pierre, proud Frenchman, yes, affording young mighty Marcel dual national footballing options. Should he follow in your footsteps? Can you confirm if burgeoning footballer Marcel will represent the United States as you do?
Yes, if my son is blessed with his mom's talents, obviously, there's the option of him representing the men's national team, hopefully, but I'm very much in favor of him as well competing to make the French national team. I have to leave it open. I have to support my husband and say, he is half French as well. So therefore, like, who am I to take all the glory and make him kind of just have one journey,
Marcel, listen to me, because no one else is talking sense to you. 2042, you in a 2 at the back playing alongside Tim Ream. It's going to be incredible. But we're living in the now, Crystal Dunn. So I just say to you, to your growing family, it's a joy to speak to you. Wishing you Godspeed.
Thanks, Raj. Appreciate it.
courage. Listen to the full version of this podcast and all our podcasts wherever you get your pods. But first, subscribe here for more Men in Blazers videos and courage.